Hello, Sania. This is my feedback to your summary from last week. So let's start. The TED video title, okay, name of the speaker, okay, description, claims that, okay, that's good word, good reporting verb. Many people do not understand the difference between, sure. If you make it a little bit more of an argument here, you could say claims that many people do not understand the difference. That's just a little bit it's more of an introductory kind of phrase, when you introduce the difficulty in the terminology. Many people don't understand, right? But when you're summarizing the whole lecture in one sentence, you probably want to make it a little bit stronger, I guess, more argumentative. So maybe you can say it is important to be able to distinguish between, or it is crucial to be able to distinguish between the two concepts of invention and innovation, or something like that. Okay, if you want to make it a little stronger. But in this summary, I guess it's very difficult to try and make it argumentative when the video itself was almost entirely descriptive. So you've done what you could. So the first sentence overall is quite good. At the beginning of his speech, he provides a slide. Now here that's just too much detail. We want to focus on the supporting ideas, not so much on what happened in the lecture room, right? So you don't need this reference to the lecture, to the slides, to the audience. You can only very briefly mention the audience, maybe. For instance, in that video about implicit biases, you could mention the audience a little bit when he played that game with them. But really, we want to focus on the idea, not on what happened in the lecture, which describes the innovation process. Yeah. So really that does not add very much to the summary. It's not really a supporting idea. You can just go straight to the actual finding. When you say according to the data, or the data, as some people would say. Okay. So that's not really a supporting idea. According to the data or data, the invention, not the invention. The invention suggests that it's a specific invention. And we're talking about invention in general as a process. Invention is a new scientific and technological approach or thing which was not published or implemented. Okay? He does kind of say that. And I think he used the word implemented. Okay? After that, the professor highlights that innovation is a transformation of this new thing into commercial usage. All of this can be very easily and more succinctly phrased in one sentence. You can just say, Archibuggi starts by making a distinction between innovation and invention, or between the two concepts, by stating that unlike inventions, an innovation is usually a product that has been made available for commercial use, or something like that. So you do use this one at the end. Just a little bit more concisely. I know you're trying to use linking words and all these things, which is a good idea, but it is just too much detail in the way you explain it, right? This is just a simple supporting idea. The basic distinction, according to Archibuggi, between this and that is that innovation is a product widely available for commercial usage, while an invention is not, or something like that. Okay? So I would just say make this a bit more concise. And of course, you could use all these cohesive devices later on. He claims that not all inventions can be innovations. Okay, it does do that. That's part of the distinction. Again, if you wanna elaborate on this, after the long sentence, all of a sudden we have a very short sentence here, which is fine as a sentence structure. But I think here you might want to elaborate. I think it was an important kind of distinction. Basically, it was saying not all inventions are innovations, but innovations do originate as inventions. So I can say something like, while, it could do a little while, kind of juxtaposing type of sentence structure. While all, as Archibugi explains, while not all inventions are innovations, or you could just say all innovations start out originally as inventions, but not all inventions become innovations. Something like that. So that would kind of balance out. It's like the way he phrases it is just to further clarify the meaning of the two terms. One is not the other, but the other is always the first, something like that, right? So you could say that. Archibugi, as Archibugi explains, all innovations start out originally as inventions, but not all inventions become innovations, right? So I could say that. In the main body of his presentation, Archibugi gives examples of possible innovations like equipment for cooling spaghetti. Yeah, all of these are examples. Remember, we stay away from examples. We don't mention them in the summary. Okay. What do these support? What idea? When he was showing these images to the students, what is the idea that is being supported here? That's what you need to focus on. And if it is not very clear what exactly the supporting idea was, you can just try and think of something. So here you can say, to demonstrate the difficulty in making a clear distinction between the two, Archibugi demonstrates a number of images. And that's it. But you don't mention the spaghetti or the food mill. These examples were suggested through rhetorical questions for analysis. Why rhetorical questions? I'm not sure why rhetorical. These examples, yeah. So all of you can just combine these, right? To illustrate the difficulty in distinguishing between the two concepts, Archibugi, blah, 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 right? And you could start with a nice infinitive phrase. To illustrate the difference with a to infinitive phrase, that would be really nice. And it could act as a cohesive device. And then put a comma and move on. To illustrate the difference between the two concepts, comma, Archibugi gives examples and so on. It can be seen that in the first attempt, not all representatives from the audience, yeah, here again, you're just describing what happened in the lecture, but we don't really need that. All of that could be summarized by the fact that it is difficult. That was the effect that he was seeking, a bit of confusion maybe, to illustrate that really it's not so easy to tell the two apart. And once you do that, you've said that, that's the supporting idea. You do not need to mention the confusion among the audience and what happened in the room. In these summaries, we really only focus not on the video and what happened in it, but on the supporting idea, on the message, right? I know it's difficult. This video was mostly demonstration, but try. can still try and focus on the supporting ideas. Okay, so again here we try to stay away from commentary of what happened in the video and just focus on the ideas. At the end of his monologue, now monologue sounds a little bit ironic. Monologue is, well, it suggests a very long speech which nobody listens to. It's almost like a sarcastic comment. At the end of his lecture, right? And it's not quite a monologue because they do respond a little bit. Maybe you were looking for a synonym here, but here it sounds almost comical. He presents the slide. There were aspects of innovations. This comma does not really connect these two clauses. So again, we've mentioned the slides. You don't need to mention this anymore. Just focus on the idea. Okay, and here this comma is just I'm not sure, you cannot connect clauses like that, phrases. So this is a common splice. But I would just say stay away from this altogether. We've mentioned the whole thing. We've mentioned the slides. Just focus on the supporting ideas. The main of them are social and economic. All of this can be combined into one. Furthermore, Archibuggi goes on to discuss the social and economic aspects of innovations. You could put that all in one sentence, right? But now, if you mention those, it's not enough to just say he discusses the social and economic aspects. You have to say what these are, right? So Archibuggi goes on to discuss the social and economic aspects of innovations. And then you can put a full stop and move to another sentence and say, with a cohesive device, and explain a little bit what these are. If you want to mention them, then you should expand on them, right? What are these social and economic aspects? Remember here, when you make it a little bit more brief, this will give you the space to expand on this, to expand on the idea, because it's an important supporting idea. So you can do that. Finally, he argues that, okay, that's a good way to end. Oops, sorry, I know what I did here. Finally, he argues that innovations based, you mean are based, right? On scientific and economical approaches. However, if it does not apply to mass consumption, it is not an innovation. Okay, I get it. Here it's another comma splice. You want to put a full stop or a semicolon. The comma cannot connect two independent clauses like that. This is an independent clause, and this is a whole other complex sentence. Just a comma doesn't do that. Economic, not economical. Economical meaning somebody who economizes. Economic is what we want to use. Finally, he argues that innovations are based, right? I think you're trying to use a passive here. I'm not sure. If you are, then you're missing a verb. Are based on scientific and economic approaches. Semicolon. However, if it does not apply to mass consumption, I would say just rephrase this. Mass consumption is a good term to use, but you do need to rephrase this. If it does not apply to, I'm not very sure what that means. I mean, I know the idea. You just need to make it a bit more clear. Okay, yeah, overall, you tried with this difficult text. Good work overall. There's some, cohesion here. He claims good use of reporting verbs. Very good first sentence. Focused conclusion. So there are quite a few good things. I hope this feedback is helpful to you, Sonia. Keep up the good work.